Hi everyone, Jay Egersdorff here, previewing game week 34 of the Fantasy Premier League. What an absolute rotter game week 33 was, I'm sure you'll agree. Really low scoring game week, and I saw on Twitter this week it was actually one of the lowest ever scoring game weeks in Fantasy Premier League. So I got 2,000, sorry, I wish I did get 2,000 points. I got 34 points, so that sent me down to 2,130th overall. So still puts me in a pretty good position with 5, 6, 7, 8, 4. We've got 5 game weeks left to go, including this one. So put game week 33 behind you, because now this is where the real fun starts. We've got double game week 34, we've got double game week 37, and we've got the what I call the free hit week, which is game week 35. So if you've clung on to that free hit chip, you've played that strategy really well, so well done. That's going to be really useful in game week 35. It's kind of tricky for me to give, as I've done all season, sort of generic advice just for this game week, and it's just because some people have chips left, so some people have the bench boost, some people have the triple captain, some people have the free hit, some people have all of them, some people have a wild card still. So I'm just going to talk about game week 34 on its own, and a little bit about how I think you need to be planning ahead irrespective of what chips you've got left. So I do think this game week is a good one if you've got the bench boost chip available. And that's because if you were weighing up between triple captain and bench boost, say you've got both those chips free, I think there's some better captain options in game week 37. So you could go Harry Kane, who's got West Brom as one of the games. You could go Chelsea, who've got 2 home games, as have Man City. And I think if you're doing the bench boost, it makes sense to try and do it as close to your wild card as possible. So it's likely that if you've still got those chips, you've probably just played your wild card. So you can kind of ensure as best you can that as many of those players are going to be in the team, be that fit, be that rotation threatened, or be that suspended. So I think if you can get that bench boost one done this week, then that's a good plan. The way I look at double game weeks is a bit negatively, so it's a bit glass half full rather than glass half empty. So I see a double game week opportunity as kind of like an insurance policy. So I look at it as thinking, well, if a player doesn't do so great in the first game, hey, he's got another chance, he's got the second game to come. I don't really look at it as thinking, oh, they're going to do really well in the first game and they're going to do really well in the second game. Of course, I hope that's what happens, but I look at it a bit more as a contingency plan, as a safety net. So with that in mind, I think you should be really careful if you're looking at this game week 34 and thinking, I'm going to take a 12-point hit to get 4 double game week players, because that could be a bit of a risky strategy and you might end up actually with less overall points than maybe you would have been if you'd have just stuck. Of course, if some of the players that you're transferring out don't have a game at all, if they're injured or they're not available, then that's a different set of circumstances. But I think that there are some teams with some good single game week teams. Of course, Liverpool, who play Bournemouth, and West Ham, who've got a game with Stoke, which if they win, they're pretty much not quite home and hose, but they're on the way to being out of that relegation battle. So that'll be a game that they're really keen to win. Another thing you really need to think about, and this has happened to me personally in the past when I've got really excited about double game weeks and filled my squad full of players that are playing in the doubles, keep an eye on the final day of the season, so game week 38, because sometimes what you can do is take your eye off that last game week, which can be really critical in your mini leagues or in your quest to finish as high up in the rankings, and you find yourself sleepwalking into a terrible final day of the season. So, for example, Brighton this season, they're away at Liverpool on the last day of the season in game week 38. Southampton are home to Man City and Leicester are away at Spurs. So there's 3 teams that play both double game weeks in 34 and 37. So if you fill your team with too many players from those teams, you're sleepwalking, like I said, into a tricky situation in game week 38. So keep that in mind and perhaps look at the players who've got a decent game on that final day of the season. In terms of the optimum game week 34 team, I don't really think there is one. I think there's a lot of argument for a number of different players, and it's impossible to get all the star players from each of these teams into your squad. So Vardy, Lukaku, Kane, Mahrez, Alonso, Hazard, Sanchez. You can't fit them all in. You haven't got the budget, so there's no right or wrongs. I think the only thing you probably need is one of Kane or Lukaku, because they've both got decent fixtures and they're both likely to play both of the matches. So don't get too worried about thinking that your competition or your rivals might have better double game week players. It's a bit of a lottery, and don't forget that in some instances, by a player scoring a goal, it's going to take points off another player in your team if they're both playing each other. So you're probably just looking for quite an even spread across the board of players from all the different teams, just to give you a good chance of coming up with an above average score. Obviously, ideally you want an amazing score, but that's going to be kind of unlikely because a goal will punish a player in another team. What I did think I'd talk about was just a few Game Week 34 differentials. So if you're looking for goalkeepers, a lot of managers, myself included, have the double goalie pivot of David De Gea and Matt Ryan from Brighton. I think if you're looking for a different one that might save you some money that you could redistribute elsewhere, you might want to go for Kasper Schmeichel and McCarthy from Southampton. So both those players have 2 double game weeks left to go, and they come in cheaper than De Gea and Ryan. In midfield, I really like the look of Jesse Lingard. He is back playing in that attacking number 10 spot. He's got the World Cup firmly on his mind. He did really well in the last international break. So I think he's going to be really looking to hold down that place in the Man United team and justify his inclusion in the England squad in summer. If you're looking for a striker, I spoke about this team in my last video. I talked about them being desperate and reliant on their attacking players for some goals if they're going to stay up in the Premier League, and that's our friends at Southampton. 2 double game weeks for those guys, and I really think they're going to be looking at Charlie Austin. He came off the bench last week to get a goal for them. His stats are pretty good in terms of shots to goal conversion accuracy. I think he could be a good option for you. He's got 2 double game weeks, of course. And finally, a bit of a left field defender for you now. This is a guy that I might describe as a poor man's Alonso. Plays in a similar position. His attacking stats are great. He is a defender in the game. He's brilliant at dribbles. He's brilliant at getting crosses in. His average is between 2 and 3 crosses from open play per match, which is great for the bonus. He's been banned for a long time, so he has a point to prove, this guy, and he's now available at 4.2, and that's Arthur Masuaku. I was ripping my hair out over this guy earlier in the season. In the last double game week involving West Ham, actually took a points hit to get him and incurred a loss on points. But I really like the fact he's got a good game week this week. He's at home to Stoke, and as per my final day of the season theory, he's at home to Everton on the last day of the season. So not a bad guy to have in your squad, and he may free up some money for you to perhaps bring in a big hitter for this double game week, Kane or Sanchez, for example. I think finally, on the captains, again, no right or wrong. There's 3 contenders for me. I'd be looking Lukaku, Sanchez or Kane. I think I'm swinging slightly towards Kane, and that's just because I've really liked this guy's desire to defend that Golden Boot title. We had the controversy with the Eriksen or Kane goal this week, and he's come out in the press in the last day or so and talked about how desperate he is to cling on to that Golden Boot title. So the games are running out for him. He's got to catch Salah up by 3 or 4 goals if he's going to go past him. So yes, he's got Man City, but he's going to be going all out to win that Golden Boot. And I think that's a pretty good captaincy option this week. So I hope that's been valuable. Thanks for all your support and your subscriptions to the channel. Keep them coming. Keep the comments coming through on Twitter and YouTube. And have a great game week. Cheers.